Russia is planning a multi-sided offensive along a 1,000-kilometer front, according to the Associated Press. The Kremlin is ramping up pressure on Ukraine to strengthen its position in future negotiations. Putin's goal is not to end the war but to seize more territory.
The move could give Russian President Vladimir Putin every reason to delay discussions about pausing the fighting in favor of seeking more land, the Ukrainian officials said, renewing their country's repeated arguments that Russia has no intention of engaging in meaningful dialogue to end the war. From the Associated Press publication.
Russia is likely to intensify its offensive operations in Sumy and Kharkiv regions, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Moscow had been preparing for this offensive for at least 8 months, but Ukraine's defense forces disrupted Russian plans through operations in the Kursk region. Ukrainian intelligence has already detected signs of large-scale enemy preparations, Zelensky said.
We see their troop buildup. We hear their intercepted communications, and their recorded conversations are of interest. They are speaking Russian and asking, "Why should we go to Sumy? When will this war end?" They are afraid. This confirms that our analysis is correct. They want this. So, what should we do? We are preparing.
Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War believe the Kremlin is using upcoming offensives to get additional concessions from Kyiv and the West in potential negotiations.
Putin also recently told Russian Chief of the General Staff Army General Valery Gerasimov to think in the future about creating a security zone along the Ukrainian-Russian international border, including in Sumy Oblast, from the report of the Institute for the Study of War. Everything Putin is doing is aimed at delaying any possibility of negotiations and postponing any steps toward ending the war.
The Russian military has intensified reconnaissance efforts, seeking to locate and destroy Ukrainian fire positions, drones and other assets that could hinder its offensive. The commander-in-chief of Ukrainian armed forces, Alexander Syrsky, believes that Russia is aiming to shift combat operations into the Sumy region.
He does not want to stop this war. It's not just about Sumy Oblast. We're also seeing increased activity in Kharkiv and on the Lyman front. The Russians are trying to make the most of the reserves they believe have been freed up after certain battles in the Kursk region. But the one who laughs last laughs best. The Kursk operation is still ongoing.
In recent days, the number of Russian airstrikes on border areas in Sumy Oblast has increased significantly, according to Ukraine's State Border Guard Service. Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups continue attempting to infiltrate Ukrainian territory. Zelensky confirmed that Ukraine's operation in the Kursk region is ongoing, with the primary goal of preventing a Russian invasion of Sumy region.
It's important to note that the Kursk operation has not yet reached its final chapter. The last page of this highly professional military operation has yet to be written. This story continues, and if not the Kursk operation, then something new may arise. We are already seeing ongoing combat engagements in the Belgorod region, where enemy resources are being systematically destroyed.
On March 29th, Ukrainian air assault forces reported capturing 5 Russian soldiers in Kursk region. The prisoners claimed that their commanders tortured subordinates and even executed them for refusing to participate in the so-called meat assaults. Reported by Sergei Kulias, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.
The negotiations between Ukrainian and American delegations, as well as between American and Russian delegations in Saudi Arabia, aimed to establish conditions for a partial ceasefire. The primary focus was on halting attacks on energy infrastructure, both in Ukraine and in the aggressor state, for a period of 30 days.
I think there will still be a million questions and details, but as today, it appears that both sides have agreed not to target each other's energy infrastructure. However, as a precaution, we separately provided a list of all our facilities that we believe must not be attacked. As I mentioned, we were technically very well prepared. Ukraine handed over and agreed with the US side a typology of facilities for all energy infrastructure as part of the agreement to stop mutual attacks. This applies to the electric power, oil and gas sectors, nuclear and coal industries and power engineering, the production of energy equipment, from the statement of the press service of the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine in response to a request from the European Pravda publication.
Meanwhile, the list published by the Russian side does not include Ukrainian oil and gas extraction facilities. The Kremlin claims that this list was coordinated with Washington. However, the US has neither confirmed nor denied this information.
What sites are included? We need to be more specific. It covers everything related to electricity production, hydroelectric and thermal power plants, distribution substations, gas distribution networks, gas storage facilities, oil refining and oil pipelines located in Ukraine, as well as similar facilities in Russia. Additionally, this applies to nuclear power plants and substations that distribute electricity from nuclear units.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the implementation of agreements reached in Saudi Arabia could begin once an official statement is released by Washington. At the same time, the Kremlin claims that a ceasefire on Ukrainian energy facilities supposed to took effect on March 18, when Putin allegedly ordered a halt on attacks. However, Russia continued to shell Ukraine's energy infrastructure after that date.
The reality is that since March 18th, they have continued attacking our energy facilities with bombs, strike drones and UAVs. We won't go into all the details, but there have already been 8 confirmed strikes on energy facilities. Every night, our air defense forces shoot down around 100 attack drones, and many of them likely had energy targets. Without our defenders, the number of hits could have been much higher. Dmytro Litvin, advisor to the president on communication on social network X.
In addition to the ban on strikes against energy infrastructure, negotiations in Riyadh also covered maritime security.
All parties have agreed to ensure safe navigation, shipping, to cease the use of force and to prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. Important, Ukraine emphasizes that any movement of Russian military vessels beyond the eastern part of the Black Sea will be considered a violation of the spirit of this agreement and will be seen as a breach of commitments to guarantee freedom of navigation in the Black Sea, posing a threat to Ukraine's national security. In such a case, Ukraine will have full rights to exercise self-defense. Rustem Umerov, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on Facebook.
For over a year and a half, Ukraine's defense forces have been independently ensuring security in the Black Sea. For Kyiv, the most crucial aspect of the agreement is the prohibition of Russian attacks on Ukrainian ports.
Today, the Russian Black Sea Fleet is clearly not dominating the waters, having retreated to the Novorossiysk area. It no longer enjoys the same dominance it had at the beginning of 2022. Ukraine's naval and underwater drones effectively secure our part of the Black Sea, which is crucial for both trade and sovereignty. The core of the Maritime ceasefire is above all preventing the destruction of port infrastructure.
Russia has rejected an unconditional ceasefire at sea and has instead put forward demands, including the lifting of certain sanctions. According to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Moscow is stalling and has no intention of agreeing to a stable ceasefire. Under the American plan, the first step toward a ceasefire is halting attacks on energy infrastructure, followed by a ceasefire at sea, and then an aerial ceasefire, including a ban on strikes against civilian infrastructure. Only if all these conditions are met can discussions on a broader frontline ceasefire begin, potentially leading to political negotiations in the future. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Valeria Nikipelova, UATV News.